This is Bill. My model of the little Bagnall 040 has been running for some time now, and it has always been my intention to make a Ben to go with it. I'd even bought a donor Ertl model to modify. However, I found die-cast metal quite tough to work with when I did the first one, and so I kept putting it off. It's only recently, now that I've been learning how to do resin casting using silicone moulds, that I thought about making Ben using a mould created from Bill. This is a video series about how Ben was made, and hopefully how more can be made like them. I've learned a lot in the process and have even changed direction halfway through, but more on that later. First of all, I'm going to show you how I made the mould and did the casting. This is the Ertl Ben I'm going to be stealing the running board from. The reason for this is I had chopped up Bill's one, and as a result it is not straight enough to make a decent copy from anymore. Collectors may want to look away now, as this Ben is not going to survive the encounter. Of course, in the process I managed to snap it and had to glue the thing back together, so we're off to a flying start. Next, I measured up where the smokebox flange plates need to go. The original loco body is only held on with gravity to give easy access to the battery, and these help locate it in the right place. Once I was happy with that, I rolled out a load of plasticine to block up the holes in the chassis and give it a base. The plasticine is resistant to the silicone rubber, and later on you'll see why this part of the process is so important. Next, the body shell also had the windows, doors and everything else plugged up. I'm going to be making a two-part mould so that the body is a shell and does not have rubber inside it on the first pour. The mould box is made from foam board. This is a sacrificial item. Some people use Lego for a reusable mould. I happened to get a load of foam board left over at work, so I'm just using it because it was free. Using the hot glue gun, I stick down the moulds at the base as well as some nubbins, in this case some coins and a bicycle tyre cap. The squiggles will also help the second part of the mould register with the first. The multicoloured glue sticks are not essential, but they are fun. You'll see the easy method of making the box by overlapping one edge. That means the sides only need to be cut to the same height and the length is irrelevant. It helps to glue up the corners as you do not want any silicone to escape. To roughly gauge how much rubber I'll need, I measured the length, width and depth of the box to calculate the volume, then knock a bit off to take account of the models occupying some of that space. It should be said that this mould is quite a bit bigger than it needed to be, and while strong thick walls can help with keeping the casting straight, this is probably too thick and could waste rubber. The silicone rubber I'm using is from Smooth On and is designed to set quickly. I've used a few different ones and most of them take 24 hours or more to set, whereas this one cures within 2 hours, though it is a bit more expensive. I also like the fact that the mixing ratio is 1:1 based on volume. Some digital scales are needed because you do need to be fairly precise with your ratios. I borrowed these scales from my local dealer, but you might have some in the kitchen anyway. Before mixing them together, I spray the master with some Man Ease Release 200. Some people use Vaseline. Previously I had used silicone spray, which was absolute rubbish and resulted in the mould half sticking together, which in hindsight was obvious as I was adding silicone to silicone, but no one had explained that to me at the time. The Ease Release I have found to be excellent for spraying between moulds and for prep before casting. I opted to mix the two halves in a separate container. They need to be mixed thoroughly. Once mixed, the pour can begin. As the silicone cures, it can get more stubborn to come out, so it's best to work quickly. The whole thing needs to be covered, which is why calculating the volume was so important. At this point, I took it away and put it on my kitchen worktop because I know that's level and I'm suspicious of my workbench being a little bit on the tilt. An hour later, the mould is cured enough to drive a little car on. Using a knife to separate the rubber mould from the foam board, the box gets torn away. Next is the slightly tedious process of removing all the plasticine. You see now why it's here, so that the second half of the mould can fill up the inside of the loco body. I used someone's toothbrush to get as many of the little bits of plasticine out as possible. Next up, it's building a box for the second half of the mould. Obviously this needs to be taller. This is where using Lego for the mould box might be more efficient. Same process as before, mixing up all the ingredients and pouring. I used ease release to act as a barrier between the two mould halves. Once it's set, we can pull the halves apart. This shows the inside of the body shell and see how the nubbins have worked to create mould registration points so that it always locks together properly. Now it's time to cast the model. The ease release is deployed again. I am using smooth cast resin for this. I have found this to have a better retention of detail than others I've tried. It also has a good 1:1 mixing ratio, which is easy to calculate. The semi-flexible nature of the resin makes it less prone to snapping than the other ones too. To mix it, I'm using a 5-berry bowl pot from Pret-a-Manger. If you are a potaholic like me, you will know that this is a good one to go for, as you not only get yogurt, fruit and muesli, you also get a nice shaped pot, and it's cheaper than the equivalent chocolate mousse or lemon cheesecake versions. Again, this needs to be thoroughly mixed, though you have a much shorter working time. The resin will start to harden within 2 minutes, so it's important to get it into the mould quickly. You may notice I have put the mould inside a large Tupperware box to catch any resin overspill. I overdid it a bit on the pour as I was just guessing the amounts and didn't want to come up short. Once the resin is in, the lid gets added, making sure the registration points match up. Using the pots, I weigh down the lid to stop it from lifting. You don't need to wait a whole hour, but in this case I wasn't sure how well it would cure, so I thought 60 minutes was plenty of time to allow it to go off. There's a fair bit of spillage, which tells me I can use less resin next time. My favourite part is popping the resin casting out of the moulds. One thing to be careful of is that the resin is still very flexible when it comes out of the mould, so how you put it down makes a big difference. I was getting banana-shaped running boards until I found a better way to hold them while they cured. Here's the loco body, not too bad. You can see it's picked up some of the stray bits of plasticine, but most of the details come through, including the name and number plates. After trimming away the excess, a fitment test ensured that everything matches up properly. That's the end of part 1. A lot has happened since then, some of it quite dramatic, so be sure to subscribe for more updates. Thanks for watching. Bill and Ben will return.